Hello, my brothers and sisters, and welcome back to Beyond the SOP, podcast where emergency management leaves the textbook, spills its coffee on the way out, and walks right into very places where community resilience actually begins. I'm Anastasia, Army veteran, emergency manager, Bayview unincorporated area resident, craft maker, dog mom, professional overthinker, and as of this week, a person who voluntarily attends local planning commission meeting, which honestly, none of my degrees prepared me for this emotionally. But here we are. All right, so let me set the scene. I walked into Pinole Planning Commission meeting expecting to see at least a handful of community members. You know, like the regulars, the people who show up to everything, the ones who bring a binder and ones who glare at you if you sit in their unofficial seat. I expected at least one guy who begins with every comment with, I lived here for 48 years. Or like a neighbor whispering, I'm just here to see if they're gonna ruin parking again. Basically, I expected people. Instead, it was just me. Just me and rows of empty chairs that looked like they were waiting for a wedding that got canceled for lack of RSVPs. Honestly, it felt a little awkward. Like walking into yoga class where it's just you and the instructor, and suddenly you questioning every life choice that brought you to that mat. But you know what? Obviously, I didn't leave because it wasn't there for comfort. Like I wasn't there for comfort. I wasn't even there for company. I was there with a goal. A plan is just a plan until a person stands in front of it. And tonight, that person was me. Before I even got up to speak, something genuinely hit me. The Planning Commission had young commissioners, young adults, early career professionals, emerging leaders. I can't tell you how proud that made me feel. These people who will inherit everything we're planning today, the housing, the infrastructure, the hazard zone, the emergency routes, the fallout decisions that made decades before they were born. Seeing them there, engage, participating, voting, asking questions, I felt this huge sense of hope. Like, yes, there are the ones who will carry our legacy, not in a cheesy inspirational poster way, but in a real, I trust you to make decisions long after I'm gone way. And in a world where, like, most people their age are not showing up to these tables, they did. That was amazing. I was honestly honored to be in the room with them. All right. Anyways, now let's talk about the very quiet, very powerful elephant under the room, the Hayward Fault. I did mention this in another episode, but it bears repeating. The Hayward Fault doesn't care about your zoning preference. It doesn't care about the city boundary lines. It doesn't care about how busy we all are. When it moves, everyone moves. And lately, it has been like really sending us subtle messages. You know, little earthquake nudges like, hey, bestie, miss me? And the Bay Area is like, no, stay over there, far, far away. But geology really does not negotiate. It definitely does not read staff reports either. Most people think emergency response is a fire engine, a police car, someone yelling, evacuate, and maybe a helicopter if the city want to show off. And sure, that's an opening scene. But honestly, like if someone who has lived through the deployments, the disasters, the calls at 2 a.m., the war zones, the wildfire recovery sites, I can tell you this. The real work happens when the cameras are turned off. I'll never forget the wildfire debris operations in LA County. Thousands of properties, burned structures, residents clinging to hope, agencies coordinating, negotiating, occasionally arguing about access points and environmental thresholds. Debris isn't just trash, it's trauma. It's memory. It's loss you have a shallow piece by piece until you reach the foundation. And the recovery is months, sometimes years. So Today, when I stood up to speak in Pinole, I wasn't speaking theoretically. I was speaking from the knowledge you only get by living through the thing everyone hopes will never happen. So the chair calls my name. I stand up. My brain goes, are we actually doing this? And my feet go, yes, Queen, we are. I introduce myself. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Anastasia Maynich. I'm a Bayview unincorporated area resident, a community surrounded entirely by the city of Pinole, which means your planning decisions directly shape our safety and our future. Then I spoke from the heart. Like Pinole sits directly on Hayward Fault, not kind like off on it, not near it, literally on Hayward Fault. And the seismic activity increases around the Bay Area. We have to think beyond the immediate, like beyond fire and police response, and into long-term recovery, infrastructure resilience, utilities, communications, debris, and community recovery. So I told him, I recently served as LA County representative during one of the largest wildfire debris removal operations in California history, and I learned something important. Disaster recovery is not a 24-hour event. It's months long, sometimes years long process. And the decisions you make now will determine how fast this community gets back after the next major earthquake. And then I ended with, I'm not here to criticize. I'm here because preparedness is love, and planning without resilience is just wishful thinking. I honestly had not actually said those things, but you get the gist. But when you speak into a room full of empty chairs and 5 commissioners, you don't expect a reaction. I felt one. The air shifted, pens paused, a couple of commissioners looked up like, oh, she knows things. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't Hollywood, it was real, it was human, and it really mattered. So here's what I want you to know. This was not my heroic civic moment. This was the beginning because there will be more meetings that I'll be attending, more agendas, more public comments, more opportunities to insert reality into planning process before reality forces itself in, and fully intended to show up politely, respectfully, occasionally sarcastically, and every time it matters. And I hope one day I won't be the only public member in that room. And the end of the day, like this episode isn't just about Pinole or Bayview or Hayward Fault. It's about legacy. It's about who will inherit the decisions we make. It's about the young commissioners I saw that night. Leaders stepping up in a world where participation is becoming rare. And it's about like really every person listening who might think, it doesn't matter if I go to the meeting. It does. It really does. Your presence matters. Your voice matters. Your understanding of risk and community matters. A plan isn't just a plan until a person stands in front of it. When I walked out of that meeting, something stayed with me. It wasn't a speech. It wasn't the empty room. It even wasn't the fault line humming and present under our feet. It was quiet realization. Most of work that truly protects our community happens in silence. Not during the press conference, not during the drills, not during the we live on a scene moments. It happens in small rooms with bad lighting and lukewarm coffee. It happens when one person shows up because they know someone has to. It happens when young commissioners raise their hands, vote, and unknowingly step into the legacy we're all weaving together. And standing alone in that room, I remember something I think a lot of emergency managers forget. Preparedness doesn't start with a plan. It starts with a person who cares enough to show up. We spend so much of our careers fighting big battles, disasters, deployments, tragedies, systemic issues that sometimes, like, really the small, quiet moments feel insignificant. But they're not. That empty room reminded me of resilience isn't loud, it's steady, it's intentional, it's the slow and glamorous work of shaping a safer future one meeting at a time. And really, like in that moment, I realized this is part of my service too. It's not just the wildfires, it's not just debris missions, not just the crisis calls, but the civilian side of really protecting a community. The civic side, the public side, the side that asks you to show up with no rank, no uniform, no authority, not even being an emergency manager. Just your voice and your lived experience. And you know what? It felt good. It felt right. It felt like something I'm meant to continue, even if I'm the only one sitting in the public chairs for a while. But maybe someday someone else will walk in, see me sitting there, and think, okay, I'm not alone in this. And that's a small spark. And that's how community begins to change. Thank you for joining me for this longer episode. One that started with me walking into a room full of empty chairs and leaving with a renewed sense of purpose. Stay safe, stay true to yourself, stay beyond the SOP.